Hello, my name is Ariana DeAngelis, and I'm the training manager for the Autism Project.
And I'm DJ Chase. I'm a student here at NECO, and I'm the Digital Accessibility Specialist. I'm also autistic.
In this video, we will discuss how to support a neurodivergent student in the classroom. When thinking about supports for neurodivergent students in the classroom environment, we want to think about both sensory supports and executive functioning supports. For information on sensory supports, check out our other video, Supporting Sensory Challenges for Neurodivergent Students.
In that video, we talk about using different sensory tools, like fidgets, headphones, sunglasses, and alternative seating, to help students with regulation.
In this video, we will focus more on supporting a student's executive functioning. Executive functioning is an extraordinarily broad term that means many different things in different contexts. But ultimately, executive functioning guides our ability to navigate and meet the demands of the classroom environment. It involves things like planning, organizing, visualizing, mentally simulating future events, time management, hurdle or challenge identification, shifting from plan A to plan B, task initiation, and so forth. When students get to the college environment, oftentimes the expectation is that because they are now technically adults, they should be able to manage all of these mental processes independently. However, for those with significant executive functioning difficulties, managing each of these cognitive processes independently can be extraordinarily challenging, if not impossible.
One thing that must be pointed out here is that there is no correlation between executive functioning and intelligence. A person may be brilliant in their field, dedicated to their work, but executive functioning challenges are such that they may not complete that work. Or they may get it done, but forget to turn it in. People are often quick to make character judgments of those with executive functioning challenges. They may say, "Oh, he doesn't care. She doesn't try hard enough. They are lazy." But it's not laziness. It's difficulty with executive functioning.
Yes, absolutely. You know, DJ, that's something that I so often come across in my work. Teachers get frustrated that they have told students the same thing many times, and they have sent out email reminders, they have office hours that the student doesn't attend, and they assume that the student just doesn't care enough. That student, of course, is frustrated with themselves, might have poor self-esteem, because they too believe they just can't get it together, that they're not enough. You are enough. You just need some different supports.
A classic example of this is the absent-minded professor. They may be brilliant in their field, producing new math problems or whatever, using all the whiteboards in their classroom, but they can't get their stuff together for the life of them. Let's talk about some tips for supporting executive functioning. Teachers can start by making sure that they are regularly referencing the syllabus. Oftentimes, professors will hand out the syllabus at the beginning of the semester, but then expect the student to track projects, exams, and activities on their own. Professors could even include microsyllabi at the beginning of each class, a list of what is happening in the class, and reminders to begin working on upcoming projects or studying for upcoming exams. This is what we are doing today. This is what the homework is. This is what we are doing the next class.
If you're doing work in a lab, for example, or in a setting that requires materials at each station that the student must collect, consider putting a picture of those materials up on the board in front of the room. Rather than remembering through working memory what it is that they need at their station, they can just look up at the picture and match their own station to it. And if the student is expected to bring certain things to every class, consider putting a picture of those things on your daily syllabus. For example, it may say items needed for next class with a picture of a book, a laptop, a notebook, and a pen. Not every student will need this, but the ones that do will greatly benefit from it. In addition, even the neurotypical students, if they are anxious or having a bad day, they might reference the image too for a little bit of extra reassurance.
That also brings up the point of images benefit everyone, much like many accessibility features. Studies have shown that images actually can increase deep learning by up to 70%. That's crazy for just adding images to an article.
Absolutely, thank you.
If students are doing independent work, consider having all the students create time for goals. For example, let's say you give them 2 hours to complete a written assignment. Have every student write or type out increments of 15 minutes. In other words, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, all the way up to 2 hours. Next to each 15 minutes, have them indicate where they hope to be in the assignment at that time. Announce when students have reached the halfway point, as some students may lose track of time. And please be mindful that some students may need extra time to complete the tasks. Having the 15-minute goals written out will help the student to manage their time, progressing through the task.
Once students have created their goals to complete the task, you can encourage them to place time markers on their work that actually correspond to those goals. For example, if it's a writing task and the student needs to write 1 paragraph every 15 minutes, encourage them to create 8 text boxes in their document, knowing that after each 15-minute increment, they should move on to the next box. To make it even more concrete, you can have the students color code those markers. The first 15-minute mark is highlighted in yellow on their plan, and the first text box is yellow in the document. The next is pink, and then green, and so forth. Planning how the student will progress through the work and then visually tracking that progression through color coding and text boxes is an excellent way to assist the student in moving through their activities. You may also want to incorporate breaks for the students during this process. Alternatively, students can also use something like the 360 Thinking app, as recommended by Sarah Ward. This app helps students to track time and set goals. For those students who are distracted by other sites and apps on their device, as I sometimes am, they may want to consider using a tool like the Freedom app, again, recommended by Sarah Ward, that can be found at freedom.to. This app allows the student to block sites and apps that may distract them for the duration of the time that they're in your class.
You can also provide graphic organizers for your students to help them break down a complex, open-ended task. For example, if you ask them to write a summary of the book that you just read, you may provide a graphic organizer that visually indicates that your summary should include discussion on 5 characters, incorporation of 2 settings, 1 conflict, and 1 resolution, and a guide of how to structure the resulting summary. Students may respond differently to different graphic organizer setups. Some may prefer webs, others bubbles, others blocks, and others lists. If you have a variety of choices, the student will likely gravitate towards what best fits their needs.
Definitely. One of the hardest things for many of us, including myself, is group work. When students are thrown into a group without any assigned role, they can easily become overwhelmed. Some students will take on the role of doing everything, like me, and others will become lost and end up completing little to no work at all. It would be helpful for professors to create roles for each student that take advantage of their strengths. If the student is an excellent researcher, for example, assign that student the role of gathering research for the group. Not sure what your students excel at? Before putting students into groups, pass out the roles and have students rate their preferences. Then, group your students accordingly. The argument against this technique that I hear a lot is that that won't prepare students for the real world. However, in a work environment, each of us is already assigned a role in a project. As the training manager, I write and deliver the trainings. Emily, our training coordinator, schedules and bills for them. Both of us fulfill our individual roles. Students in the classroom are preparing for the real world by working in their roles.
When thinking about roles, a lot of people expect students to fall into the role of college student easily and without instruction. However, for many people, being a college student and navigating college life is completely new territory. They expect us to know what all the new terms mean and how to navigate them.
Yeah, that is a great point, DJ. Let's use the term office hours as an example. Before coming to college, it's unlikely that students knew what office hours as a term meant. A neurodivergent student might benefit from a very detailed explanation of the term before utilizing the resource. There are so many unknowns around office hours, and each should be defined for the student. Consider creating a glossary of terms and answering questions such as, what are office hours? Office hours are an opportunity to talk one-on-one with your professor. You may ask the professor questions that you have about the material. You can ask for help with a certain project or concept, or you can talk to the professor about anything else related to the class. How do I access office hours? You go to the professor's office on Monday from 2 to 4 p.m. You can join the Zoom meeting on Wednesday from 1 to 3 p.m. Where do I go for office hours? The office is located in the Science Building on the 3rd floor, number 123. You can take the elevator or use the stairs to get to the 3rd floor. If the meeting is on Zoom, the professor will send you a link that you can click on to join the meeting. If I arrive and there's already someone there, where do I wait? If you arrive in person, you can wait in the chairs outside of the door of the office. If there are no chairs, you can stand in the hallway. Anyone who arrived before you will go into the office before you. You will have to wait your turn. If you arrive on Zoom, the professor will let you into the meeting when it is your turn. Before that, you will be in the Zoom waiting room. Another question. When do I know that it's my turn? In person, the people who arrived before you have gone. Then it will be your turn. On Zoom, the professor will let you into the meeting. When it is my turn, how do I go into the room? Do I knock or just walk in? When it is your turn, you can knock on the door. If the professor sees you, they may just tell you to come in. How much time do I have with the professor? Does it depend on whether anyone is waiting? It does depend if other people are waiting. If no one is waiting, you can stay with the professor until the end of office hours. If someone is waiting, you can stay for 15 minutes before it is the next person's turn. If I cannot go to office hours, is it okay to send an email with my question? Yes, it's okay to send an email with your question. How quickly should I expect a response? Does it depend on the time of day? Yes, it does. The professor will check their email up until 10 p.m. After that, they will not check it again until 8 a.m. You can expect a response to your email by 10 p.m. on the day that you sent it. You may get a response before 10 p.m., but not after 10. How many emails can I send in a day? How will I know if I'm sending too many emails? If you have sent an email to the professor and they have not responded yet that day, do not send the email again. Wait for the professor to respond. They are very busy. If it is the next day and the professor still hasn't responded, you can send another email. If you are sending too many emails, the professor will let you know and will help you come up with a plan to get your questions answered. How do I remember to check my emails? Set an alarm twice a day to remember to check your emails. Check every unread email you have. If the email needs to be answered, send a reply. If you want to save the reply for later, put a flag on the email to remind you to reply later. As you can see, some folks, not all, this won't be necessary for everybody, but some folks benefit from having a lot of details about various concepts. Creating these glossaries in written form in advance of the class can be a very powerful tool for students that need it.
Notice in those descriptions how direct and explicit the answers were. Some people will require direct and explicit instructions about many things. Make sure when you are giving explanations of classroom expectations or protocols that you provide as much detail as possible for those who need it.
I agree, DJ, definitely. And pictures, as you were saying earlier, are very helpful. On the first day of class, consider taking a picture of what the building, elevator, hallway, chairs, office door, and office look like, so the students can use those pictures as a guide when navigating to office hours. Some students may reference those pictures every time they head to office hours, and I'm sure that many neurotypical students will use them too.
That's something so many people don't think about. Supports that were put in place for neurodivergent students are also really helpful for neurotypical students too.
Just like you were saying earlier. My friend who's autistic once told me, Ariana, a rising tide raises all boats. And that really hit home for me. These tools and others are ones that anyone can benefit from, especially during a time when there are so many digital distractions and challenges with regulation in our world.
The more we learn about autism and neurodiversity, the better equipped we are to support students on campus.
A truly neuro-inclusive campus is achieved by taking steps like this. We're coming together to learn, to support, and to celebrate our students of all neurotypes. Thank you.